Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Fire Eyes Media.
Welcome back, y'all. It's the middle of January, and we are not on hiatus. In fact, we have so much more in store for you, it's not even funny. And we're celebrating a huge milestone today. This is the 100th episode of Weird True Crime. Triple freaking digits. It's pretty amazing that we're here. And for those of you who are new here, I'm Gina.
And I'm Amber.
And we're longtime besties who are now your new bestie. If you've been around a while, thank you for sticking with us over the last couple of years. We wouldn't be here without you. And for the newbies, I don't normally sound like this, but this cold weather is kicking my ass and my voice along with it. So bear with me.
Before we dive into today's case, we need to ask for your help. It would mean the world if you could take a minute to rate us 5 stars and leave a review for the show wherever you listen. Positive ratings help us grow and give us the ability to keep sharing more stories. And we have a lot of important stories to share this year. Share it with a friend, follow us on social media at Weird True Crime, and subscribe to Weird True Crime on YouTube for even more content. Okay. Now let's get into today's case.
So, picture this. A woman is hanging out behind a gas station parking lot, hiding from her on-again, off-again boyfriend, when tensions escalate and she's doused in gasoline and set on fire. It sounds unreal, right? But this really happened. And the victim, Judy Malinowski, didn't let her story end there. She made sure her voice was heard and turned her pain into something bigger. A push for justice.
All right, so Judy Malinowski was born Judith Ann Hensel on August 26, 1983 in Ohio. Life seemed pretty normal for her as a kid, but things took a hard turn when her dad passed away in 1997. She was just 13 years old at the time, and losing him left a big hole in her life. Even with that loss, Judy kept pushing forward. She was friendly, active, and the kind of person everyone wanted to be around. She went to New Albany High School and graduated in 2001. During her time there, she was crowned Homecoming Queen and Miss New Albany. But it wasn't just about the titles for Judy. People genuinely liked her because she had this knack for making others feel seen and valued. After high school, she continued her journey at Ohio State University. Not long after, she married Ron Malinowski, and they had 2 daughters together. Her girls became her entire world. Everything she did was for them. But things with Ron weren't easy. Their marriage hit some major bumps, especially when Ron cheated. That betrayal marked the beginning of the end for their relationship. They ended up separating, but never went through a formal divorce. Despite everything, Judy kept her focus on being a mom. She poured all her energy into making sure her daughters had the best life possible.
And then, as if life hadn't already been hard enough, Judy got hit with another blow in her early 20s, ovarian cancer. After initially making a full recovery, Judy received the devastating news that the cancer had returned in 2006, when she was just 23 years old. The diagnosis meant that she had to undergo a hysterectomy. And while that was physically and emotionally tough, it also led to something even more challenging. Judy started relying on pain medications to get through her recovery. And before she knew it, she was dealing with an addiction. It's the kind of thing that can derail anyone's life, but Judy wasn't the type to give up. She knew she had to fight it. She ended up going to rehab and worked hard to reclaim her life. It wasn't an easy road by any stretch of the imagination, but she had her daughters, and they were her reason to keep going. That determination was just who Judy was, resilient and always striving to do better, no matter how tough things got. I couldn't imagine being diagnosed with ovarian cancer at like 20 years old.
And it coming back a second time.
Yeah, to lose.
Come on, that's just not fair, man.
It's really not. And it makes, I don't know, there's nothing about it, but I don't know if maybe cancer was prevalent in the family, and so maybe she just, like, her risks were higher. But thank goodness she had already had her daughters, because having to have a hysterectomy, she couldn't have any more children.
Yep.
But yeah, she did not have a good lot in life. Like, that's tough. And I was doing a little bit of digging into the likelihood of getting addicted to your pain medications in this situation. And according to the American Medical Association, an estimated 3 to 19% of people who take prescription pain medication develop an addiction to them. I don't know why it's such a big, like, 3 to 19. That's kind of
it's a big range.
But even 3%, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. It is, and I know people personally who did get addicted to their pain medications, and it's a really hard addiction to beat.
Oh yeah.
So good for her for working her way to sobriety.
Sometime between Judy's first and second battle with ovarian cancer, she met a construction worker named Michael Slager. Despite being 8 years older than her, Michael and Judy became close friends. In fact, Michael was the one who told Judy that her husband Ron was cheating on her. Michael didn't waste much time taking advantage of Judy's separation from Ron. He admitted he'd been in love with her for a while and saw this as the perfect opportunity to share his feelings. But there were some obvious red flags. For one, Michael was dating several of Judy's friends at the time. Oh, and Judy was pregnant with her and Ron's second daughter. To top it off, Michael ended up going to prison not long after confessing his feelings. Let's just say it wasn't exactly the makings of a love story. Still, years later, Judy and Michael would eventually end up dating, a decision that sadly would lead to devastating consequences.
Some point after her second battle with ovarian cancer and hysterectomy, which led to her addiction to pain medication, like we said, Judy lost her health insurance. This meant that she could no longer afford to go to the doctor or pay for the prescriptions, so she started using heroin. According to the American Medical Association, 45% of heroin users were initially addicted to prescription opioids. That's a lot of people. And because Judy could no longer safely take care of her daughters, her mom, Bonnie, and her sister kept them. Thankfully, Judy went to a private rehab facility, got sober, and began living with her daughters again.
That just shows the strength that she has, that she recognized and went and got herself help.
I didn't look into this aspect of it, but now, of course, it just popped into my head. I wonder why it is that so many opioid addicts turn to heroin, specifically.
From my understanding and what I've experienced from others in my life, whenever you're addicted to an opioid like that, your body almost develops kind of a tolerance to it. So it requires more and more for you to get that relief or whatever the reason is you're taking it that you're needing. And so it gets to a point to where you're taking so much, it's just not doing what it needs to. And so people have to up the ante, and then they turn to other things like heroin.
Heroin terrifies me. Oh, and not because of the needle, it's just terrifying, and you see what it does to people. Oh,
seeing how somebody behaves while on heroin is terrifying.
And how it changes them. Like the pictures you see of somebody before and after
the mental
addiction.
And physical changes are terrifying.
Yeah, it's so sad.
She was doing really well. The best she'd been in a while, but then she began dating Michael Slager in April 2015 after they reconnected on Facebook. Remember, Judy and Michael were friends previously. But Judy was pregnant with her second daughter, and Michael went to prison. At first, things seemed okay. Michael came across as supportive, and Judy, who was still working to get back on her feet after years of struggles, welcomed the help. There was a side of Michael that wasn't immediately obvious. He had a criminal record, and not just minor offenses. We're talking domestic violence, stalking, sexual battery, and more. It's unclear if Judy was aware of the extent of Michael's criminal history, but it painted a clear picture. This was not a safe person.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
According to Judy, after they went on their first date, Michael basically moved himself into her house. As their relationship continued, the facade quickly fell apart. Michael was controlling and abusive, but he wasn't just physically violent, he was emotionally manipulative too. Judy's family began noticing bruises on her arms and face, and at one point Judy told her sister Michael had choked her. And Michael's control and abuse didn't end there. He encouraged Judy to relapse into using drugs, something she had worked so hard to overcome. Why? Well, because it gave him power over her. Her mom, Bonnie, saw what was happening and tried desperately to intervene, but Michael's grip on Judy was strong. He isolated her, cut her off from support, and made her feel like there's no way out. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, this type of abuse is called substance abuse coercion. It's a barrier to victims' economic stability because it can affect their finances, employment, housing stability, social networks, and public benefits for which they are eligible.
And a survey from the National Domestic Violence Hotline showed that 43% of respondents had experienced at least one of 3 types of substance abuse coercion. So they either had a partner pressure or force them to use substances, like what happened to Judy, had a partner threaten to report their substance use to the authorities to keep them from getting something they want or need, and or were afraid to call the police because a partner said they would not be believed or they would be arrested based on substance use, and which we'll see is something that Michael used to his advantage as well. And the fact that he moved in basically immediately, like as soon as they started dating, he just inserted himself into her life like that. He was like, okay, cool. Now I'm in and I can just sink my claws into this woman who's not necessarily the most stable because she's dealing with so much. And he saw it as like, oh, this is an easy target. 100%. And he was not a drug user either.
No.
He's just getting her to stay on those drugs so he can continue to manipulate her. Oh, it's disgusting. And the fact that so many people do that to their partners seems like the absolute opposite of what you would want to do, but there's a lot of not great people out there. Between May and July of 2015, the police were called to their home 13 times. Let that sink in. 13 times in just a few months. And believe it or not, most of those calls were made by Michael. In the documentary The Fire That Took Her, detectives explained that Michael's calls to the police were a way to assert control. He used law enforcement as a tool to maintain power over Judy. And the situations varied, from verbal arguments to physical altercations, but Michael always managed to avoid serious consequences. For example, the first time police were called, it was because Michael and Judy had gotten into a fight and Judy took his car. Even though Michael made the call, he didn't want to press charges. It was part of a strategy. Involved the police just enough to keep Judy under his thumb, but not enough to face any repercussions himself.
Judy herself made some of those calls, including one particularly chilling 911 plea where she said, "Michael's going to kill me. I need help." Despite this, Judy later testified that the detectives at the scene didn't take meaningful action to protect her. In contrast, the officers interviewed in The Fire That Took Her claimed they spoke to Judy about what was happening and offered help. But Judy was too scared to press charges. Michael had convinced her that going to the police would only make things worse. She feared for her life and for her daughter's safety if Michael found out she had spoken to law enforcement. Judy did try to escape. Once she fled to a hotel, thinking she could finally break free. Michael had been beating her and treating her horribly. She stayed there for nearly a week, hiding and trying to figure out her next steps. Judy's mom, Bonnie, was also trying to get her away from Michael during this time. But Michael wasn't going to let her go that easily. He tracked her down, showed up at the hotel, and convinced her to come back. It's hard to imagine the fear and hopelessness she must have felt in that moment. For Judy, it wasn't just a bad relationship. It was a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. Yeah, you just feel stuck, stranded, completely hopeless. Like there's absolutely nothing that I can do. And if I try to do anything, he's going to hurt me or the people I love most in this entire world.
Right, and the authorities aren't going to take me seriously because he's just going to talk his way out of it, or I'm the one that's going to get in trouble because of this substance abuse and my kids' lives are at stake here. So,
yep,
she's just
not
stuck.
worth it.
No. Then came August 2nd, 2015. It started like any other day, but it quickly turned into a nightmare Judy couldn't escape. That morning, she got news that should have been life-changing in a good way. A bed had opened up at a rehab center. This was her chance to get help, to turn things around. Michael drove her to the facility and dropped her off, but she hesitated. She stood outside, bummed a cigarette from someone, and stalled. She wanted to talk to her mom and daughters before checking in, to make sure they were okay with her decision. So instead of walking inside, she started heading to meet her mom. And that's when Michael pulled back up and Judy got in his truck. From there, things spiraled fast. They drove to a gas station to buy cigarettes, but the argument that started in the truck didn't stop. By the time they arrived, Michael was extremely upset. Sensing the tension, Judy tried to quietly slip out of the truck and get away. She walked behind the Speedway building, finally sitting down in the grassy area that separated the gas station from a nearby bank, trying to collect herself.
But Michael wasn't about to let her go that easily. He pulled his truck behind the bank, looking for her. When he found her, he threw the truck into park, got out, and started calling her names. The argument went on for 5 to 10 minutes, long enough for anyone nearby to have noticed, but no one intervened. Then, Judy lost her temper and threw her styrofoam cup of soda at him. That's when Michael snapped. In an instant, he grabbed a gas can from the bed of his truck and stormed back toward her. Judy tried to run, but she tripped. That's when he started pouring gas on her, starting from the top of her head and even into her mouth, burning her throat. She gagged and coughed as he continued dumping gasoline all over her body. She screamed for help, but no one came. As she cried out, Michael taunted her. "You want to throw something at me? See what I'll do to you, bitch," he sneered. "How do you like this?"
I just got chills. Satisfied with his work, he stepped back to look at her. Judy, desperate to de-escalate, scrambled to gather her things and leave. But there was an issue with one of her shoes. In a final attempt to calm him down, she asked Michael for help and told him she'd get back in the truck with him. But Michael had other plans. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a lighter, flicked it on, and walked toward her. Then he set her on fire.
Flames engulfed her almost instantly. The gasoline acted like an accelerant, turning her into a human torch within seconds. Judy later described the pain as like 1,000 hot needles stabbing her body all at once. She screamed for help, her cries piercing the air, but Michael just stood there, watching her burn. Judy recalled his eyes looking black, and she screamed. In an attempt to put out the fire, she buried her face in the grass and took off her sweatshirt. Nothing helped. The fire had engulfed her so completely she couldn't see anything, but could hear voices coming from far away. The last thing she remembered before blacking out was praying to God. You can't even, what do you even say to that? We're both just sitting here shaking our heads.
No one should ever have to experience anything like that.
No.
And she was a victim in so many ways. Like, she had already gone through so much in her short life at this point, only to go through something like this. You know?
And it's not like she was alone there either.
No.
There were witnesses, but, trying to put myself in the shoes of one of those witnesses. Michael Dude doesn't seem like a very good human being, and probably people gave him a wide berth for that reason.
Absolutely.
So the hell are you gonna do when all of a sudden that all unfolds in front of you?
And there's there's camera video from the bank of it. It's surreal.
Yeah.
Surreal. It's like, how is that a person?
It makes it very hard for your brain to comprehend that a human being actually had to go through that.
And survived it. For as long as she did.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse. Surviving that and living through that agony, or not surviving it.
I think that if things didn't play out the way that they're about to in her case, it may not have been worth it. But I think what she was able to do
made it worth it. Absolutely. Witnesses at the gas station were horrified. And like you said, Michael is a scary dude. And so they probably witnessed this and were afraid to intervene for their own safety. But once they saw this, they called 911, frantically trying to describe the horrific scene unfolding in front of them. Bystanders later stated it looked like Michael was going to leave after pouring the gasoline on her, but he stomped over to her like he was going to hit her. He did the unimaginable and set her on fire. After one witness made their presence known, Michael ran to get a fire extinguisher and put out the fire, ravaging Judy's body. So it took somebody else seeing this for him to be like, oh shit,
someone saw me.
So I guess I better act like I didn't do this on purpose now. And this gas station was in a busy part of town. This wasn't the kind of place where you'd expect someone to try and murder someone in broad daylight. But that's exactly what happened. When police responded to the call, they thought they were showing up to a small fire, maybe someone with minor burns. But what they found was so much worse. Michael had some burns on his legs from putting out the fire, but he would make a full recovery. Judy, on the other hand, wasn't that lucky.
She was left with burns covering 90% of her body. So something interesting that I learned about the body burning percentages is they actually break down the sections of your body and they give a percentage amount to it. So let's say, for instance, like your torso, from like your shoulders down to like your abdomen, that's 9%. Then your stomach is 9%. The front of both of your legs is 9% each. The back of your legs would be 9%. So each of your legs is 18%. So that's how they determine the percentage of the burns that cover your body. And for somebody to have 90% of that covered, there's maybe like the bottom of her feet wasn't burned. Maybe, lower private area wasn't burned, something like that. Just very, very small percentage of her body that had not been burned. That's a devastating thing to put into perspective when you look at it that way. Her hair and skin were completely scorched. The fire had destroyed her ears, leaving her disfigured in ways that emergency responders said were unimaginable. When Judy's mom, Bonnie, arrived at the hospital, doctors warned her that she wouldn't recognize her daughter. And they were right. She later told 10 TV, they were right. It just didn't even look like a human being. But all I could see was my baby in that bed. All I could see was that she was alive. Judy's sister was so overwhelmed by the sight of her that she vomited and fainted on the spot. Burn injuries are not for the faint of heart, and especially covering your entire body in that way, it's an unimaginable torture that no one should ever feel. We've said the word a few times, but it really just is unimaginable.
And I completely understand why her sister had the reaction that she did. Could you imagine seeing your loved one that you grew up with side by side like that?
No longer even resembling the person that she was.
No.
It's devastating.
And being completely helpless to do anything about it. You just have to stand there and let her suffer.
Yep.
That's just awful.
Well, it's probably not surprising to hear that Judy's outlook was grim. Doctors didn't think she'd make it through the night. They told her family to prepare for the worst, warning that she might only have hours to live. But Judy was not ready to give up. She clung to life with a strength that shocked even the medical team. For around 7 months, Judy was in a coma. But then she woke up and spent the next 15 months on a grueling journey of survival and, again, unimaginable resilience.
During her time in the hospital, Judy underwent 59 surgeries. Skin grafts to replace the layers of skin destroyed by the fire, treatments to fight off constant infections that threatened her fragile state, and endless rounds of physical therapy.
When you get burned like that, your nerves are fully exposed. There is no amount of pain medication or numbing medicine or anything that you can do to give comfort for that person experiencing that. So with the skin grafts and, debriding and cleaning, just absolute constant agony.
I read that the amount of pain medication they would have had to give her for it to actually make a difference would have killed her.
Fatal. It's a fatal dose that would actually
they
do anything.
Literally cannot give her pain meds that she needs because it will kill her. The fire had stolen so much from her. She lost her ears, most of her eyesight, and many of her fingers, leaving her unable to perform even the most basic tasks. She couldn't walk, and because of the burns in her airway, she could barely speak. Her body was so fragile that she coded 7 times, and each time doctors fought to bring her back. And yet, despite all of it, Judy faced every procedure, every painful setback, with a determination that left everyone around her in awe. While Judy was fighting for her life, Michael was busy weaving a story for investigators. When questioned, he claimed that Judy had accidentally spilled gasoline on herself while filling up the truck. According to him, when he went to light a cigarette for her, she just went up in flames. Not only that, he tried to paint himself as the hero, going on about how he hurt himself trying to save her. But the cops weren't buying it. The bank next to the speedway had security cameras facing the grassy area where everything went down. And unlike Michael, cameras don't lie. It's not even a good lie.
I hate this guy.
He's such a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit.
This guy.
Like, we try not to say a lot. Go ahead.
No, and I'm sorry for whatever emotional trauma Homeboy experienced early on in life that made him the way that he is. But come on, dude.
Well, look, I think we've said this before. You can feel bad for the child version of someone who's gone through immense trauma, right? But that does not justify the actions that they take as an adult.
Placing blame on what happened to them when they were younger.
Correct.
You still are a adult. In this case, you are still an adult man capable of, well, supposed sane thought and rationality.
Mm-hmm.
And probably not good to set someone on fire.
No. And we'll talk about it later. So he did have a couple of mental illness diagnoses. And one of them, I'm not sure if it's really true or if that was just something the defense came up with to justify it, but we can talk about that.
Investigators watch the footage. Surprise, surprise, they're going to watch footage of what happened because people lie.
Mm-hmm.
Michael soaking Judy in gasoline, walking off screen for 32 seconds, then coming back, bending down, and lighting her on fire. The video also showed that Michael only ran for the fire extinguisher after he realized people had seen what he did. Oh shit, I can't say I don't know what happened because somebody's literally watching.
Mm-hmm.
To build a solid case, investigators needed to hear from Judy. Oh, this pains me so much.
Mm-hmm.
Her care team brought her out of sedation just long enough for a brief conversation with officers. When they asked if she had spilled gasoline on herself, she shook her head no. When they asked if Michael did this to her, she nodded yes. That was all they needed to move forward. Not surprisingly, when police spoke to Michael again in his hospital room, his story changed. This time, he claimed that after Judy threw the soda at him, they kept arguing. Then she spit in his face. Oh, the audacity, because throwing gasoline back at her is the appropriate reaction to that response.
Yeah, of course.
He admitted to throwing gasoline on her, saying he was just trying to, quote, quote, even the score because she ruined his clothes. I don't know if he knew this, but soda washes out. Like you go to a washing machine and you wash the clothes and they're fine.
Yeah, I don't know that I would wash and rewear something that had been soaked in gasoline.
No, it's not.
No.
Not exactly even Steven there.
No, it's not.
Well, then he claimed she sat down and asked him for a cigarette. He walked over with the lighter and, well, the rest was history.
Yeah, they didn't buy it. Investigators fully believed Michael had meant to kill Judy, but that wasn't enough to build a murder case. As awful as it sounds, they were playing the waiting game because as long as Judy was alive, they couldn't charge him with murder. They expected her to pass away, but Judy wasn't done fighting. While Judy held on, investigators shifted gears and charged Michael with aggravated arson, felonious assault, and possession of criminal tools. Despite overwhelming evidence, Michael stuck to his accident story. Trying to spin Michael as the victim, his lawyer told People magazine that Michael loved Judy and that he was horrifically injured trying to save her and now confined to a wheelchair. All in the name of love. Please.
Oh, I can't. I just can't. Michael's trial was set to begin in December 2016. But on the morning jury selection was supposed to start, he pleaded no contest to both charges. The judge gave him the maximum sentence, a measly 11 years. The decision to take the plea deal was strategic. It preserved Michael's rights in case he was later charged with murder, and, more importantly, it kept Judy from testifying under oath, something she had been fully prepared to do. During sentencing, the judge didn't hold back, telling Michael, quote, "You really seem like the kind of person that has no soul, and you need to be incarcerated," end quote. And as Bonnie put it, Michael had silenced Judy again. Prosecutors were furious about the 11-year sentence, but their hands were tied. As long as Judy was alive, they couldn't move forward with murder charges. Sadly, doctors had already warned her family that she likely wouldn't survive much longer.
In an interview with 10 TV, Judy spoke openly about her suffering, saying, "No human being should ever have to go through what I've been through. Nothing that breathes should ever have to endure the pain of being set on fire." She was fighting for her life, for her daughters, and for her story.
The thing that gets me so much about burn injuries, they are excruciating when it happens. They are excruciating during the healing process, which takes forever. And then it's still excruciating for the rest of your life because your body has been so horribly altered. Even I don't know if you've noticed, but anybody that gets a severe burn on their hand, but they don't lose fingers, they end up getting these fibrous connective things between their fingers and almost make their hand unusable because of all of that. I guess it's scar tissue. Basically, the buildup of scar tissue, and because of all of the treatments and everything, the skin grafts, all of that scar tissue builds up. And then even though they still have their fingers, their hand is basically useless because of the burn injury. So it's not just, you break an arm. That hurts. Healing will hurt. Recovery can be uncomfortable, but that's at least at a level where pain medication can assist.
And it will eventually go away.
And eventually you'll be fine. For the most part, depending on the severity of the break, but it's nothing in comparison to what she was set up to endure for the remainder of her existence on this planet.
No. Not to mention that even after you do all the skin grafts and everything else, all of the nerve damage that's been done, you can't fix that.
No. It's irreparable damage.
Yeah, and if anybody's ever experienced that or had a surgery or something where nerves in your body get altered, it's a weird sensation. And it can hurt and it can be uncomfortable. And you don't have the same feeling at all anymore in that spot. Could you imagine having no feeling in over 90% of your body?
No.
Besides fucking pain?
No.
She also wanted others to learn from her experience. In that same interview, she urged other women in abusive relationships, saying, "I want to tell people how horrible something like this can be. And if you're in an abusive relationship, find help and get out completely. Run the other way. Run."
You never know when it's going to escalate.
No. And that's why we're telling her story, because it's exactly what she wanted. And it is important for people to know that if they're in this situation, there is help there is hope, and you can find a way out, no matter how hopeless it seems.
Yep.
On December 22nd, 2016, Ohio Senator Jim Hughes met with Judy's mom, Bonnie, to discuss his plan to introduce a bill allowing judges to impose longer sentences for assaults that leave victims maimed, disfigured, or permanently disabled. Hughes worked closely with Judy's family, and by the time the bill was introduced to Congress, it had a name: Judy's Law.
By early 2017, Judy knew she didn't have much time. Prosecutors asked her to testify because, under Ohio law, a victim's testimony could be filmed in advance if they were expected to die before trial. But testifying wasn't just a matter of sitting in front of a camera. To make sure her testimony held up in court, Judy had to wean herself off of pain medication for weeks, proving to the judge that she was of sound mind. To say that it was a brutal process is an understatement. There's video of Judy sobbing from the pain, saying she didn't want to do it, but that she had to. On January 26, 2017, Judy spent 3 hours testifying against Michael. Because of the damage to her airway, she needed a speaking valve over her trachea just to be questioned by prosecutors and cross-examined by the defense. Her voice was shaky but firm as she described the horror of being doused in gasoline and set on fire. She disputed Michael's claim that it was an accident. She couldn't recall every moment of that day, but she gave a clear, detailed timeline of the attack itself.
Of course, Michael's defense team did what defense teams do. They grilled Judy about her past, bringing up her history with addiction and choices she made while struggling. They wanted to make her look unreliable, but Judy never wavered. Though exhausted and in unimaginable pain, I don't know how many times we have to say that this time. Last time it was, the bullet in the head. This time it's all the horrible pain she was dealing with. She answered every question honestly, even when it reflected badly on her. As her mother later put it, quote, "Judy was not perfect, but she was human. She was on her way to rehab when this happened." End quote. And not to mention, it shouldn't and doesn't matter that she was struggling with addiction. That doesn't mean she deserved or, No. I don't understand that. It's like, okay, what does it matter how you make her look or talk about the choices she made when she was struggling? That doesn't justify anything. Anything. And then came the moment that would later define the case. The prosecutor asked Judy, "What do you think should happen to Michael if you die from the wounds he inflicted?" Her answer was clear. "I think he should be charged with murder and sentenced to life."
Judy was moved to a palliative care center in May 2017. After nearly 2 years of life-saving surgeries and around-the-clock care, her body was giving out. Her family knew they were running out of time, so they fought to get Judy's Law passed before she was gone. In June, Judy's oldest daughter, just 13 years old, testified in front of an Ohio Senate committee. She told lawmakers that while Michael only got 11 years, her family was handed a life sentence. She urged them to pass the law to prevent horrific crimes like this from happening to others. 7 days later, on June 27, 2017, Judy passed away from organ failure. She had fought for 696 days. She was only 33 years old. The very next day, the Ohio Senate adopted Judy's law. And on July 17, 2017, Ohio Governor John Kasich held a special ceremony where Judy's daughters, now 10 and 13, joined him in signing the bill into law. Under this new law, anyone who uses an accelerant to harm or disfigure someone will face an additional 6 years in prison. If this law had existed when Michael was sentenced, he would have received a maximum of 17 years instead of 11. Still not enough, but definitely a step forward.
After Judy's official cause of death was ruled a homicide, Michael was charged with murder and became eligible for the death penalty. But on July 5th, 2018, just one day before his trial was set to begin, Michael took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to aggravated murder, even though he originally wanted to plead no contest, which means he wouldn't admit guilt but wouldn't dispute the charge either. But the judge wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow him to plead no contest.
Good.
And the guilty plea took the death penalty off the table, but sentenced him to life without parole, which is what Judy wanted. In court, Michael admitted to soaking Judy in gasoline and setting her on fire. He claimed he was on medication for bipolar disorder and had intermittent explosive disorder, which can cause uncontrollable rage. According to Healthline.com, there's a term called bipolar abuse, which refers to situations where people with bipolar disorder act abusively toward a partner, often triggered by mania or depression. That's a dangerous combination if he really had both disorders. And you can prove that, he had bipolar disorder, especially if he had been prescribed medication for it in the past.
Yeah.
Who knows if he was actually taking the medication or not at the time. And I hate to do that or make any assumptions, but I do wonder if he really did have this intermittent explosive disorder, or if that was something that his defense team found and used as a way to explain away his reaction. But I am not a doctor, and so I can't really say one way or the other.
That
That's
still doesn't
kind of,
justify
no, it
setting
doesn't.
somebody on fire.
Absolutely not. During the hearing, Judy's recorded testimony was played, making her the first person in history to testify in her own murder trial.
That is monumental if you think about it. Bonnie also spoke in court, revealing that Judy didn't want Michael to get the death penalty, not because he didn't deserve it, but because she was a forgiving person. Judy wanted Michael to not face the death penalty. Her hope was that he would find God somewhere between now and when he meets her. That was her hope, and that was very generous of her.
But Judy's case became more than just a legal battle. It sparked conversations about domestic violence, systemic failures, and the need for stronger protections for victims. Her family's relentless fight for justice ensured that Judy's legacy would extend far beyond the courtroom. Her courage, telling her story from a hospital bed, set a historic precedent and gave hope to countless others trapped in similar cycles of abuse. Beyond the law, Judy's family created Judy's Foundation, an organization dedicated to supporting families affected by domestic violence, drug abuse, and human trafficking. According to judysfoundation.org, they are working to develop software for first responders to better handle cases involving abusers, expanding and strengthening Judy's Law, and creating Judy's House, a safe complex offering resources, protection, and support for survivors.
Judy's legacy has also reached a wider audience through the documentary we mentioned earlier, The Fire That Took Her. This powerful film chronicles Judy's life, the horrifying attack, and her family's quest for justice. It has been shown at multiple film festivals and used in educational settings to highlight the urgent need for systemic reform in how domestic violence cases are handled. Viewers have described it as heartbreaking but necessary, with many saying it motivated them to take action in their own communities. Through her family's efforts, Judy's story has become a beacon of hope for survivors and a call to action for society. Her voice continues to resonate, proving that even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, courage and determination can spark lasting change. Judy Malinowski's story is heartbreaking, but it's also powerful. She turned her pain into action and made sure her voice was heard. Her fight for justice has saved lives and shown others that even in the darkest moments, there's hope. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or visit thehotline.org. You are not alone, and help is available.
We want to give a huge thank you to Haley Gray for her incredible research on Judy's case. Haley is truly the gold standard when it comes to ethical true crime research, and we are so grateful for the work that she's done. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at Haley Gray Research. And this is not the last time you're going to be hearing from us about Judy's case. We'll be guesting on the Love, Lust, Fear podcast hosted by Jake Teptula, who you might know from Strictly Stalking, and Michelle Locke, a former associate court judge who oversaw domestic violence cases.
Michelle worked in family law for over 20 years and now uses her expertise to educate larger audiences about domestic violence and victims' rights. We'll be talking with them in depth about Judy's case, warning signs in relationships, the legal impact of her testimony, and so much more. You don't want to miss it. So go follow Love, Lust, Fear wherever you listen to podcasts and keep an eye out for it on our feed too.
Until next time, stay safe
and make good choices. Bye.
Bye.
Fire Eyes Media.